Lacrosse community. My name's Ryan Berns. I'm the founder of the Lacrosse Leadership Institute. It's our mission to empower all those that love lacrosse to utilize the skills you gain from the sport and ultimately live the life of your dreams. Today, we're so fortunate to be joined by Maryland women's lacrosse standout, Lizzie Colson. Lizzie, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. For those of us in the community that don't know about you, can you please share a little bit about where you got into lacrosse, a little bit more about your story and what you're up to today?
Yeah, for sure. So you said it. I am at Maryland now. I'm a redshirt senior defender. So I started playing lacrosse. I was probably like 5 or 6. Like I was very young. It's been in my family forever. My mom played in college. All my siblings played. So I've grown up with a stick in my hand. So started from a young age and then played ever since and absolutely fell in love with it. But I did actually quit in 5th grade. I think I did not want to play lacrosse anymore. I wanted to do gymnastics. I, for some reason, wanted to focus on gymnastics. And then my coach was like, please just give it one more season. Like, I think you have something really special. He was like, and if you hate it after this season, like, we can be done. And so I gave it another season and just fell in love with it. And from there on, like, I can't think of a time I haven't absolutely loved it. So kind of a rough patch there in 5th grade, but yeah.
I know we spoke, Lizzie. It sounds like lacrosse really is something that has been a family affair for a really long time. And for playing for so long, do you have a pinnacle lacrosse moment or maybe a couple moments that really stand out to you?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a few moments. I think one is when I almost quit. I think that I would obviously not be here and my life would look a lot different. And then another moment for me that sticks out is when I was deciding what sport I wanted to focus on. And then when I did get into high school, I was serious about soccer too and pretty good at soccer. And I didn't really know if I wanted to continue playing soccer in college or lacrosse in college. So again, wouldn't be where I am if I decided to play soccer, obviously. So that was a pinnacle moment. And yeah, just deciding to focus on lacrosse. And then my third one is probably putting on the Maryland uniform for the first time, suiting up in the Maryland gear as an 18-year-old, like living out that dream of just playing at the highest level. There's nothing like it. And just absolutely achieving that goal was a really, really important moment for me in my lacrosse career.
I can imagine how special that is if you've been dreaming about it for such a long time to finally be able to suit up. Can you share with some of the younger kids in lacrosse right now how you made that decision to choose lacrosse first of all and how the recruiting process went for you or what it took to ultimately get to play in college?
Yeah, well, I think nowadays it's more common to see people focus on one sport. But when I was younger, and I know my mom played 2 sports in college, like it was a lot of people played more than one sport and focused on a few different sports. So choosing lacrosse was really tough for me because I loved both. I ran track too. I loved all 3. So it was a really tough decision, but ultimately I just thought I could go further with lacrosse and had more opportunity with it. So, but I think in like elementary school, high school, play as many sports as you can and focus on as many as you can while you still can, because when you do get to college or whatever level you're at next and it's your whole life and that's all you're playing, it's great. I love it. But I do miss soccer. I miss running track. Not that lacrosse is not track because some days it feels like it. But I do just miss the range of sports. So I think for as long as people can, whoever's listening to this, play as many sports as you can. Just take it all in. And I think that you learn a lot from other sports. So I take a lot of my soccer skills and put them on the lacrosse field. I know now you can like kick the ball in lacrosse. So I'm like kicking the ball all over the field. Like, why not? And again, the track, like the mental part of track that has just allowed me to like really take my game to the next level. Mentally, I'm tougher. Physically, I'm tougher. So taking what I've learned in other sports and incorporating it into my game has made me so much better of a player.
Let's talk a little bit about the skills that you take from sports. You've talked about each sport and what you're bringing to who you are now. I think the mental side is huge. And also the real premise of this conversation is leadership as well. Let's start by addressing what does leadership mean to you?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, leadership to me is just having like a sense of integrity and doing the right thing when no one's watching, and doing the right thing when things are hard and when no one's around you, and putting in that work on your own, hoping that someone maybe does see you and then they'll be encouraged to do the work on their own, or maybe staying after practice and getting a few extra reps in hopes that someone will stay with you. Doing the tough work again when nobody's watching. And I think that it also is just walking the walk and not just talking the talk. People are looking at you and they're watching everything you do, whether you like it or not. As a leader, as a captain, people are looking up to you. And it's such a privilege. It's a great responsibility. But just being able to walk the walk and making sure you're sticking to your word and you're following what you say you're going to do.
Can you share an example of what you're doing as a leader right now on the team?
Yeah, I think everyone who's playing sports right now can speak to this during COVID times, just following these guidelines and navigating our way in a global pandemic, trying to play, trying to stay safe, but also trying to like hang out outside of the field. It's really, really tough. And there's a lot of like things you have to like, you have to be careful where you step. You have to like, it's very tough to navigate. And so I think that for me is like, that's everything right now. It's just navigating COVID playing. I don't even know how you want to word it, but I think me and my other two captains on the team have just really made sure that we're enjoying our time together and enjoying every chance we get to play together. And then enjoying our time off the field as much as we can. I know Maryland's putting in rules where it's maybe 10 people in a room at one time. And obviously we have way more than 10 people on our team. So how we can get to know people outside of my class who maybe I would be able to see if we had more than 10 people. But yeah, I think the COVID navigation is probably the biggest thing.
And something that's coming up for me right now is that sense of empathy, being able to connect with someone and understand how your actions ultimately cause them to react in a similar way. And especially with COVID, we don't necessarily get the opportunity to be face to face, but you go above and beyond to meet with one another. And I think it's interesting that just what you were saying in terms of trying to navigate it and make the most of the situation. Did you all as captains set some goals at the start of the year to say, hey, this is what's going on, this is how we're going to go about it? Or can you explain a little bit about how you build a vision for the team?
Yeah, it looks different every year. So I've been a captain for 2 years now, and although we have pretty much the same core people, obviously, it looks different, and every team looks different. And the leaders, the captains I had the year before I was the captain, looked different that year too. And then obviously, again, in a pandemic, looks very different. But from early on in the season, we all set goals, and we keep so we actually had these like goal charts in our lockers, and we all wrote down like a few goals that we wanted to reach, whether it was on the field, off the field, had to do with lacrosse or didn't, whatever it was. So it reminds us every single day what we're working towards, and how we can just help each other. I know a lot of my goals are not lacrosse focused, but maybe teammate oriented and focus on bringing, like we were saying earlier, like working outside of practice with my teammates, or like making a teammate smile. So I think that that's one way that our leadership on our team is a little bit maybe different from other schools, where it is about lacrosse, obviously, but it's so much more than that, because it's about the friendships and it's about the people. And if you can just enjoy the people around you and, have some fun, then I think that it translates on the field.
Absolutely. I was talking with one of our previous guests, Michael, about John Wooden and just everything that he stood for in terms of having a well-rounded person and doing the preparation going into a game. So come game time, everything should be done. Just about executing and building that culture of trust, communication, discipline, hard work, and it's all there. And it sounds like you all are really focusing on those, and we call them ancillary, but they're so important, just the human connectivity and the smile. I love that that's one of your goals. Lizzie.
Yeah, I love it. I think that even if you can just make a team, go ahead, sorry.
Oh, I would love to hear a little bit more about what inspired you to just make someone smile and be a part of their life.
Yeah, I think just making people smile is a huge part of, like, if I can just, some days when I'm in my head or I'm not playing great, I can just turn to a teammate and try and make them smile, and that'll make me feel better. And I think that it gets me out of my own head. It probably gets them out of their own head. You don't know what people are going through. You don't know what they need. So just bringing up the people around you, and why not try to make someone smile? I know that, like, one of my goals charts here at home says, like, make someone laugh today. Like, that's so important for me. And, like, just make any way I can, like, make someone feel better or make someone smile. It's very important. And I think that it's not always fun. It's not always easy out there. We work hard, we run a lot, we train hard. And so if I can turn to the person next to me and make them laugh in the middle of a run, like, it makes the run feel a little bit less hard. And you get out of, like, oh my gosh, my legs, they can't carry me anymore. So I know that, like, when we're running at practice, I have, like, 2 freshmen next to me. And my coach said, like, okay, you guys, like, 6 reps. And I was like, well, so I turned to the freshmen, they're like, oh, I had, like, 6 reps. That's so tough. And I was like, okay, well, like, let's get rid of the first one. It's a warm up. We'll get rid of the last one because it's a cool down. I was like, so now we're just down to 4, split that in half. And then you have 2. I was like, we're good. We're basically done. They were like, I mean, we haven't started yet. So just ways that I can, like, it helps me too, like, get out of my head and be like, oh gosh, 6 reps. Yeah, I don't want to do it either. But it takes me away from my thoughts for a second and hopefully helps them feel a little bit better.
Oh, that's so funny. And I think that's what it takes. We have to trick ourselves to take massive action, because if we're able to take massive action, we're going to get massive results. And that's one of the neat things I think about the high levels of any sport or any activity is you have coaches that know what it takes to get there. They've got an agenda, a set plan. They've got that destination in mind. And as long as we put in the effort to ultimately drive that flight plan, we're going to get there. And if you can find a way to trick yourself or make the other girls on the team laugh, it seems like a win-win, especially in really difficult times. And speaking of that, I know we spoke before, but I don't think the rest of the community knows about your battle with injuries and the ACL tear and ultimately deciding to go back and play in collegiate lacrosse. Can you share a little bit about that story, how it happened, your mindset going into it, and back to why you are here right now?
Yeah, definitely. So I tore my ACL, oh gosh, 2 summers ago now. I was playing with the US team. So it was the last day of the camp, the training camp, and I went up for a draw control and came down on my leg, I bobbled the ball. And I think about it often, like, if I could go back and just not bobble that ball, I try not to think that way. I'm like, but now looking back now, I'm like, you know what, I've learned so much. I'm happy with what happened because I've learned, but that's a different topic. But yeah, I bobbled the ball, it dropped, and then I turned back to go get it. And immediately I knew I had torn everything. Like, yeah. So that was 2 summers ago. And my mindset going into it, I was so confused because 1 second earlier was playing at the highest level of lacrosse, and then I'm inside sitting on a table and I can't lift my leg. And then I'm like, okay, well, I'm not 18 years old. And I think this was, like, one of my pinnacle moments for lacrosse, because I was like, I'm not young, I'm at the end of my career. Maybe this isn't for me. Maybe I just be done and kind of take this last year to, like, be an undergrad assistant kind of thing. And then I was on track to graduate, just be done and be content. And I was like, no, like, that's not happening. I was like, I'm not content with this. I'm not good with just kind of, like, I don't want to call it quitting, but I wasn't good with, like, where I was done. And so I decided to go all in on my recovery, take my 5th year and work really, really hard. And it was tough, mentally, physically, so draining, so taxing, and a lot of hours in physical therapy, meeting with sports psychologists, still trying to keep my stick skills intact. Like, I know for the first 8 weeks I was on crutches, so I couldn't do anything. But the second I got off those crutches and was able to, like, walk a little bit, I was, like, on the wall, because I was like, if I could do anything right now, it's, like, keep my stick skills in check. So long, hard recovery. But I learned so much about myself and who I am as a player, who I am as a person, what I want to do with my life. I would not change my story for anything. And I obviously am reaching so many people, and people like you, this platform, like, has allowed me, my ACL story has allowed me to reach so many people and just help out so many people and what they're going through. So tough journey and to get where we are today, but I wouldn't change a thing.
What's your biggest takeaway you think that you learned about yourself?
Oh gosh. Wow, that's tough. I think I learned empathy a little bit. I think I learned a little bit more of the way you were saying earlier, just getting out of my own head. And I know that there was a girl going through a similar injury, the exact same injury, and she was a few weeks behind me. And I learned how to just completely support her and be with her through her journey. And that's something that I wasn't great at before. And a lot of people joke with me, like, I'm not great with emotions. Like, it's just not something I really do. But this ACL injury forced me to feel things that I, don't usually feel. I hate like being upset and stuff like that. And so this ACL injury allowed me to just ask for help and be vulnerable and be okay with not being okay and show those feelings that maybe I wouldn't have shown before, and then have that empathy for people that are feeling the same thing. And that's kind of, I want to be a sports psychologist, and I know that because I went through what I went through, and just helping those people that are going through similar things and knowing that they're not alone and having that empathy for people who are hurting.
I think that's just amazing to hear, because for myself, I went through a similar journey. The idea, maybe it's just the athlete or the competitive person, you shouldn't be showing emotions. You don't want to show weakness to your opponent, because that gives them an advantage. And to be able to come down to a human level and be able to relate with one another, be able to communicate and bond, is such an important aspect of humanity in life. And I think lacrosse gives you amazing skills, and it's great to be the fiercest of competitors. But in the same token, there is a shelf life for being an athlete, and that identity that's involved in being an athlete, then being able to translate it to what I'm calling the real world is such an important aspect. And
and I think
going off
of that is with my vulnerability, it allowed other people to be vulnerable. So again, people see me as like bubbly and energetic, but if I'm allowing myself to feel upset on days where I was upset when I couldn't walk, like, it's okay to be upset when you're on crutches for 8 weeks. Like, that's okay to have tough days. And it was liberating for the people around me who were like, okay, like, if Lizzie's upset, like, I can be upset too. Like, it's okay to feel this way. So I think that, like, as a leader, part of your job is just to be real with people. And like I said, like, walking the walk. And part of that is having human emotions, like you're talking about, having real world emotions. Like, we're tough for athletes. We're really, really tough, but we are human and we get upset and we're hurting sometimes. And I think as a leader, again, you have to communicate that with people around you. So I think it made me a better leader.
And that was going to be my next question, is if you feel like you're a better leader now compared to beforehand, is it because of the connectivity and just being able to relate more, or are there different points, or have you seen yourself take on a situation in a different way now after the injury?
Definitely. Every single day I catch myself doing something that I probably wouldn't have done before the injury, or checking in on someone. And I think that it's definitely made me a better leader. Just in ways where I'm checking in on people who maybe are on the sidelines. Lacrosse wise, it's made me a better leader because I've watched for a year and I sat back. I've always been kind of a leader, but on the field. I showed my leadership on the field, and I was captain in high school. So like, but it's different. Like, you're young, like, you think you're doing a good job leading, but like, your coach is still pretty hands-on. And then when I got to college, I was just playing and I was just leading with how I did it. I was like, here's how I'm going to get a jar control, whatever. But then when I sat for a year, I was forced to just watch and just learn the game and be a better leader and teach. I had to tell people, because I can't play. So I had to tell people how to get a draw control, tell people how to slide on defense. And so that made me a better leader. And then emotionally, just a better leader. I'm more in touch with people who are, again, maybe on the sidelines, or more in touch with people who aren't playing, but they're suiting up. More in touch with the girls around me. I'm able to teach them by showing, but then also like step out and be like, okay, like, talk them through it. So I think it's going to help me a lot going forward. I want to coach in college somewhere. So I think it's made me a much better leader. I'm really grateful for it.
Well, you're hitting on so many different things, but something you said, and coaching in college seems like an awesome opportunity. And I know we spoke about the fact that you're going to continue to pursue education as well. which seems really neat. Can you share with us as well? Because I know all successful people, they write down goals, and you've already said you write down goals in your locker and at the house. Can you share some of the goals that you have written down and think about it in the terms of, there's younger women out there watching, what should they be thinking about in terms of goal setting?
Yeah, so something, I actually have a podcast called The Lineup, and something I do once a week, every other week, is a little like mental skills minutes. And the last one I actually just did was on goal setting. And there's a SMART goal, the SMART goal thing, and it's just like setting SMART goals, making sure that they're achievable, like time management, all these different things that go into it. And like, you can listen on The Lineup if you want to, we can get more into it. But yeah, just making sure that they're realistic. And I think some of the goals I've set in my house here, like my mom and I like set goals all the time. And we have off the field ones, like I talked about, making people laugh, or doing 3 random acts of kindness is one of mine. Getting my coach to dance. Like, I'm never going to be able to get that to happen, but like, we're going to try. But then there's also lacrosse related goals, like getting a certain amount of ground balls in a game, or assisting to someone in a game. So that we are staying driven and staying focused, and getting things done on the field too. But I think for people listening, just making sure that your goals are specific to you and realistic to you. And I don't know, just they're very specific. I know every single person in our locker room, their goal chart looks so different from the person to the next. Like, it is such a specific thing, but making sure that, you know, you encourage yourself, you encourage people around you. I think one of the most important parts about goal setting is to like surround yourself with people who are going to encourage you and hold you accountable for the goal. So that's why we literally have it posted in our kitchen, the goal chart. So then like every day we walk by and like we can hold each other accountable as roommates to reach them.
And that's the biggest part of, I'd say, it's who's on my molecule. The people that you touch and surround you, you're the culmination of them. So if you find people that are encouraging, goal setters, work hard, they're empathetic, they're able to really lift you up, you're surrounded by excellent people. And I think a big part of that as well is standards. If you're able to set high standards for yourself, and the people around you have high standards, naturally you start raising. And I think that's part of playing at the highest level of sports is there's a reason why you got there, and the women around you got there. And it's because they have extreme work ethics. They're willing to put in extra work. They're willing to be leaders on their team. They're willing to do the things that are uncomfortable. And for me, that was the coolest part about playing collegiate lacrosse is you're surrounded by guys, in my case, that were all just that top level guy. And it's totally different. I don't know if you find that experience elsewhere other than sports, because it really draws out the best and most, just, I don't know, I like to say pure in people, just because they have one singular goal to win.
Yeah. And you just go through everything together. So kind of like going back to the point of running, like you see each other at your best and your worst. And people saw me crying on the training table when I had to do 50 bodyweight squats before practice. Like, but they've also seen me, you know, have a great game. So it's awesome in a sense that like you really go through everything together, and it creates a bond like nothing else. Sports are so important, and I just love the bond it creates. And having that goal and holding the people around you accountable for that goal. Like if your goal is to win a national championship, you're going to accept nothing less. Like you are going to fight until you reach that level. And just being on that same page is like such an empowering thing. No matter what the page looks like, it's so empowering. Just to kind of like do it together and to have that common goal.
I absolutely love what you just talked about. Being on the same page is empowering. And that's something that I think is a highlight for me right now, which is why I'm starring it on my piece of paper. And Lizzie, we want to support you any way we can. I know you already talked about the lineup a little bit. Could you share a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so the Lineup podcast is something I started over the winter. And I just wanted to share my story, and I wanted to reach anyone I could in whatever they're going through. And I'm having fun with it. I don't know, it's a fun way to like try something new, but it's basically just a podcast for anybody, athletes, non-athletes, ex-athletes, whatever it looks like. And it's just a spot for people in the athletic world. I have sports psychologists on there, current athletes, I have former athletes, myself, I tell my story, and we just share what we're going through. And as humans, as athletes, we are all going through things. And it just puts it in perspective. And if it just helps a few people, I'm happy with that. And if someone hears something that they needed to hear that day, like, that's awesome. That's incredible. Then I did what I needed to do. But it's been awesome. This platform has just really allowed me to reach a completely different audience. I know I get a lot of responses through Instagram, whatever it is. And they're just like, this podcast really helped me. This podcast, blah, blah, blah. And it is so, I love it. Like, I'm just having so much fun with it. I'm happy to help again, any way I can. But yeah, that's on Spotify. It's on Apple Podcasts. Quick, like 30-minute listen. Nothing too professional, so don't expect much. But yeah, it's been fun.
Well, it's real conversations, and I think that's what makes it fun at the end of the day. And
yeah,
awesome to hear that you're up to that. Just as we wrap this up, Lizzie, is there anything else that you'd like to share with our Lacrosse Leadership Institute community right now?
Yeah, I think that everyone can be a leader. I think that it's just the fact of like stepping out of your comfort zone and being okay maybe in those situations where you're like, oh, do I speak up? Do I not? Being a leader sometimes is very uncomfortable and it's very tough, but everyone has it in them to be a leader. It just might look different for some people. And maybe you could be a silent leader, maybe you're a verbal leader. Like, no matter what it looks like, I think everyone has it in them. It's just, are you willing to be uncomfortable? Are you willing to step out of your comfort zone? And I think, like, go for it. Like, take that risk, take that chance. You never know. And I think the other thing I would say to like the young girls listening is just like not being afraid of failure, not being afraid of rejection, especially in sport. It is so important. Like, you need those failures. You need that. It makes you tougher. You learn so much. I think I've learned more through failure than I have through success. I just think that as you go through sport, like I said earlier, keep a lot of sports, play as much as you can for as long as you can, and then take risks within those sports. Just have fun with it. Don't be afraid to fail. And I think that that'll teach you so much.
Lizzie, thank you so much for your time.
Your
energy is amazing. The value that you're bringing to everyone is absolutely terrific. Really appreciate you.
Thank you so much. I love what you're doing here. This was fun. It was fun to be on the other side of the interview.